You're listening to the Dad Whisperer Podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, the place where you, as a dad, will gain more tools for your fathering toolbox, and where moms and daughters are also invited to listen into the conversation. Now, here is your host, Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield.
Hello and welcome back to the Dad Whisperer Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, and I welcome you here today, Dad, especially if you have a daughter who's probably, I would say, heading into her teens, into her 20s or beyond, because my heart desire is to equip you as a dad to dial into the heart of your daughter. And even if she's younger, Dad, there's never a time that you can begin too early to invest in building a solid foundation with your daughter. And even though some of the topics that I cover here might be a bit, let's call it in the deeper end of the pool, or today we're going to be using football analogies, so I would say farther down the field, but you still can never start too early. And I can also tell those of you dads who maybe have, if I again stay with the football analogy, have maybe you're already, in overtime, you're maybe out of time, things aren't right where you want them to be with your daughter. I also want to say to you, it's never too late to turn things around with your daughter, and it starts with you. Well, you know the grid I use every week. On your mark, get set, go. Dad, I'm on the sidelines as your coach, cheering you on. You're there with other fathers who are also like you, wanting to invest in being equipped in your role as a father, especially if you have a daughter. And so on your mark is what I'm shouting from the sidelines, cheering you on, actually whispering it, because men have said we don't like women shouting at us. So you know my desire is to whisper ideas to you so that you get full credit when you put them into action. And on your mark is the topic or the theme. Get set, filling that in with stories and stats. And go is always your practical action step, because the truth is every show has a lot of content, whether I'm doing it myself or whether I have a guest coach joining me. So I want you, Dad, to always have one action step with that topic, with that theme, so that you move the ball down the field, right? One play at a time, one step at a time. And so today is another, I would say, investment in your fathering toolbox so that you can be the dad you want to be and that your daughter needs you to be. Well, on your mark today, I've titled this Stumbles and Fumbles, 8 ways a dad can recover when he's dropped the ball with his daughter. Well, I'm honestly coming to you today, heart to heart, I would say coach to player, so to speak, even though we're on the same team. I'm over here on a different side of the team while you're out there playing, throwing, tackling, fumbling, at times getting back up again. And it doesn't mean better, worse, hierarchy of me above you at all, but it's that I have a vantage point over here, not only as a woman, but having walked alongside teens, young women, 20-somethings, 30-somethings, 40-somethings, 50-something women for so many years, over 4 decades in different roles. And so I want to share with you things that I believe will enhance your, I would say, not only your workmanship, is manmanship. Okay, I'm making that up. Obviously, that isn't a word. But I want to equip you as a dad, strengthen you as a man, so that as you're out there on the field, in the trenches with your daughter, that you are making a positive difference to move things forward. So I'm coming to you today wanting to give you some proactive strategies, dads, that are maybe going to kind of hit you between the eyes, because this idea of stumbles and fumbles is obviously going to be part 1 of a 2-part series where I'm talking to you about things you don't want to do wrong, things maybe you are doing wrong or less effective than they need to be, where you're dropping the ball. Again, football analogy, you don't just sit there and stare at the ball, right, on the field, on the grass. You're going to want to pick it up to move it forward, because at the end of the day, Dad, you know this football analogy of you can't play a game of football if you don't know where the goal is. Right? The goal has everything to do with the direction you run in, the points you make, maybe the points you miss, and whether you win or lose. You always have to know where the goal is, right? So if you don't know where the goal is, where that end line is, you're just going to run around in circles. And so sometimes having input from the sidelines, where I'm your coach, can be helpful so that you can say, help me play this better. That's why I was saying, be a better man, be a better player, not like you're playing a game, but to use that analogy, it's more about really the strategies you're making, the moves you're taking, the steps you're making to move things forward with your daughter. And today might be some course correction, to be honest with you, where you'll say, oh, that one's hitting me between the eyes. I need to address that. I need to stop that and maybe change that or shift that or back up, just like you do with a football mindset. Is how do you win? You've got to know where you're headed. So today, I would say, I'm not just going to hit you between the eyes and discourage you and take you down, because next time I'm going to be talking about the positive side. Today might feel more like the negative side of, Dad, don't do this. Stop doing this. Course correct this. But I'm standing here encouraging you. I hope you feel that from my heart to yours, which sometimes means, right, kind of speaking the truth in love as we read about in Ephesians 4:15. Like sometimes truth, as long as it's bathed in love, in kindness, in something that resonates with your spirit, you'll take it in. If it feels like I'm just bonking you over the head, you're going to run the other direction and go, stop shouting at me. You know, that thing of, I don't need a woman telling me how to be a better father. But if you resonate with what I'm sharing, knowing that my heart desire is with you because we're on the same team, wanting to win in the same way. And this is about winning your daughter's heart. Okay? That's the bottom line. So let me tell you why I've come up with this title about stumbles and fumbles. Again, repeating that title, 8 ways a dad can recover when he's dropped the ball with his daughter. It's because many years ago, this was, oh my goodness, I think back in 2015, I actually wrote a blog titled 10 Things Dialed In Dads Don't Do. I love alliteration, so all those D's. I ended up even changing it to 10 Things Dialed In Dads of Daughters Don't Do, right? D. And at the end of the day, the reason that I said that is because I wanted dads to hear that sometimes what they do wrong, like you tell her she's too emotional or weighs too much, or she's too much like her mom that you've divorced, or those kinds of things, actually have more impact than sometimes the positive things you do, which lines up with Gottman's theory of the love bank, 5 deposits to every one withdrawal, because we know that one negative thing, that one thing you missed, that one thing you failed to do right, sometimes carries more weight than the 5 positives. So Dad, at the end of the day, the more deposits you're making to do things right, your bank account, your emotional account, your relational account with your daughter will have more in it than less, right? There'll be less withdrawals if you kind of think 5 to 1. So today is talking about the things, dads, that I'm telling you from my heart to yours, don't do this. This is where you will stumble and fumble every time because the cost is greater. So often times we see for failure. And I know you want to do it right. And I want to give you a surefire way to build a solid bridge to your daughter's heart. And that's why I want to give you these 8 really significant things that you can be mindful of and make careful decisions in what you say, what you don't say, how you move that ball, if you will, to use that analogy, down the field. You've also heard me say many times through the years that one of my observations now in 14 years of traveling from my planet of Venus to yours of Mars is to really observe that often men would rather do nothing than do it wrong, right? You're smart enough to go, I am making this worse. Mom, I'm going to sit back. You go in. You're a girl. You get this. She's too emotional, too verbal, or whatever for me. Dad, you got to hear me say, doing nothing is doing it wrong. That is an incorrect conclusion to believe that you're not important in every stage of your daughter's life. Even though she's making you work for it, even though your ears might bleed at times and you're saying, I'm not equipped for this. Well, Dad, get the help you need, just like you would in football. If you're not up to your best, you're going to get I don't, what do you call it? Like a guest coach? What do you call that? Like someone you hire to support you as a tutor on the side, just like in math. That's where I've struggled. I had to hire a tutor, someone to help me where I wasn't doing my best because I didn't have an innate skill. And dads, you know I'm here. Hire me for a session or 2 or 3 or 4. I love coaching dads who are open to input, are open to feedback. Even just today, in one of my coaching sessions, I had a dad say, I took what you taught me about how to ask questions with my daughter. This week, we found out she's not attending school. She's been skipping. And in the past, I would have gone, why did you skip school? Why? You've taught me that is not an effective question. So I said, what do you not like about school? He goes, it changed the whole conversation because he was willing to get input. So Dad, I'm just putting that there on the side. Remember, I'm here. I'm on your team. We're on the same side of, we would say, the same side of the field with a goal for you to win your daughter's heart. Okay, back to this title. First of all, what I want to do is define fumble. Here's what I looked up, because we're talking about stumbles and fumbles. So just to make sure we're clear, a fumble is when you handle something, or I would say here's someone, clumsily or aimlessly. So clumsily means you maybe you did something that wasn't so smart. You said something you regret. But then aimlessly, again, means that thing I said earlier. You don't even know where you're wanting to go with her. So that might be your go step today. Get set. I'm filling this in, guys, with lots of ideas, lots of content before I give you the 8 things, because that's as much, a part of winning a game is the prep as it is the playing of the game and getting out on the field, right? Or sitting on the bench, encouraging other players. But it's prepping yourself in your mind, your body, your will, your emotional self. All of that prep has everything to do, doesn't it, with what happens on the field. So this prep time here, before I give you the 8 things, is just as important as the 8 things. So here, Dad, sometimes the aimlessness of going, I just kind of am winging it. I don't know. She's not really that into time with me right now. I say, Dad, not good enough. You got to find a way to spend time with her. It may even be 5 minutes every day rather than 50 minutes a week or an hour a week or 5 hours. You may disqualify yourself to say, I'm not ready for that. She can't handle that. Great. Keep working at it until you find a way into her heart space to have time with her. Here's another definition of fumble: to feel one's way or move awkwardly. Okay, certain stages of development, you might go, oh my goodness, she's developing. I don't know where I'm hugging her wrong, or she's really got more attitude now. I feel so awkward around her. Or, her mom and I divorced, or we're separated, and now it's just awkward. Okay, Dad, that isn't your reason to give up. That's a fumble. Number 3, a fumble is to drop or juggle or fail to play cleanly. So this whole idea of just, what are you doing with the ball? Are you kind of just, have you lost sight of it? Do you not know where it's at on the field? Have you wandered off? Have you looked into the crowd? Have you looked up at the sky? No, you've got to keep your eye on the ball so that you play cleanly and fairly. And that's about you doing your work to stay upright. And the last one is to lose hold of something, or I would say here's someone, while moving or running forward. So Dad, there's some practical ways to think, okay, I don't want to fumble the ball with my daughter. So my goal is to give you 8 ways to really identify clearly what's happening with your daughter. I'm not dosing you with a fire hose of negativity, but I'm wanting to give you some ways to evaluate where you're at right now in your relationship with your daughter, because that is on you. And I want you to have a clear mindset to press forward and be there with your daughter. Okay, before I start the 8, I want to say, Dad, go step. That's where we're going to end. That's part of the end zone, is you want to be thinking, okay, what is one of these things that I can make a matter of my focus today and this week, even, I would say, a matter of prayer. You're like, man, I really am not doing well in this area. So I'm going to go to another dad. I'm going to go to a mentor. I'm going to hire Michelle to come alongside me. I'm going to actually bring this to someone I trust who can help me be accountable, help me be more aware. Maybe you want to read a book or listen to a podcast to help beef up your skill in an area where you're weaker. Got it? Okay, here we go. 8 stumbles and fumbles. I'm going to give you 2. We'll take a break and then I'll come back. Okay, number 1. I've seen that a stumble and a fumble that dads commonly make is stepping back and choosing to do nothing rather than stepping forward, being willing to risk making a mistake or encountering criticism. Okay, I mentioned that a little bit earlier about, an observation from Venus to Mars. So Dad, maybe that's right now where you're at. You're saying, you know what? I'm choosing to step back because she keeps hurting my feelings. She criticizes, or maybe her mom does, anything I'm doing where I'm trying to do it right. And all I do is get teased or made fun of or criticized for a part of the whole, or maybe the whole. Like maybe I show up and I asked my daughter how her day was, and then she went into her room, and then I get jumped on because I didn't actually knock on the door later to check in. Or maybe I went to a game and I took a phone call, and now I only get criticized for the one phone call, in the game, not the whole time I sat there and gave my full attention. And so Dad, on that one, I would encourage you to be less defensive. And when you hear something that you've done that's hurt your daughter's heart, whether it's from her or someone else, without being defensive, say to her, say to someone else, tell me how I hurt you by that action or inaction. Ask for more data. Tell me more. There's 3 words. Tell me more. And then be open to criticism, because you would do that if you wanted to be a better football player. Do it here. Okay. So that one is stepping back and choosing to do nothing rather than stepping forward. Number 2, a stumble and fumble that I've seen dads commonly make is justifying your anger, or even maybe using shame as an acceptable response to motivate and direct your daughter. So for example, justifying anger. You've heard me talk about that one a lot. Like, well, you pushed my buttons, or if you didn't talk like that, I wouldn't have had to raise my voice. Not okay. That's a stumble and fumble. You have to take responsibility and accountability for your response. And if your daughter is having an attitude and getting angry, what are you modeling to her? Because that's the key, Dad. Lead her in the way you want to go. If you're moving the ball, so to speak, down the field and you want her to follow you, what model are you giving her so that she has a role model to follow, not anger being justified? And then when I said, or using shame, like you may want to say to her, shame on you for that response. Shame on you for talking to your mom that way. Now, yes, do those things need to be course corrected? Absolutely. But think about it in a football game. The whole team is not only on the front end, you're watching, footage of the other team, you're prepping yourselves, and at the end, you're going to have a post-game debrief. The next day, you're going to still be talking about it. You're going to watch post-game footage because all of that matters. But you're not going to go over all that stuff during the game. That is not when you're going to have that conversation with your coach, with the team, or with yourself. Same here. A stumble or a fumble is when your daughter is at an 8, 9, or 10 on a 0 to 10 scale. That's not the time to have that conversation about consequences or what needs to course correct in her behavior or attitude. But Dad, this is your opportunity to check in with yourself and say, what model am I giving? Especially when it comes to anger or using shame. Okay, we've got 6 more to go, but we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, I'll share more stumbles and fumbles so that you can recover the ball when you've dropped it with your daughter. Be right back.
Are you a dad who has ever desired a deeper connection with your daughter, but haven't known how to go about it? Let's Talk Conversation Starters for Dads and Daughters is the very resource you need. Dr. Michelle wrote it with you dads in mind. This book will support you with scripted questions, equip you to decode your daughter, and inspire you with stories of other dads and daughters. Don't wait any longer to be the hero you want to be and that your daughter needs you to be. So, to let the talking begin, head on over to drmichellewatson.com/books and order your copy today. This book will become a favorite in your fathering toolbox and will give you the answers you've been looking for. That's drmichellewatson.com/books. Now, back to the Dad Whisperer podcast.
Welcome back. Today, I know this is a heavy topic, but every dad that I have talked with over the last 14 years honestly will say to me, Dr. Michelle, tell me what not to do wrong. Tell me what to do to fix it. You gotta help me here, and over, I have found through the years, especially with that 10 things dialed in dad, 10 things dialed in dads of daughters don't do. There's a mouthful. Is that dads, that was my most widely read blog I've written because I saw that men are saying, tell me what not to do wrong. So I'm hopeful that today the Stumbles and Fumbles topic will actually be striking a chord with you. Share this with your friends. Subscribe to this podcast because that communicates to the powers that be that these topics matter, and it helps me know as well. Oh, okay, dads really do want to know more about what not to do wrong. So this is your opportunity, dads, to look at yourselves and course correct. Okay, so here we go. Number 3, another stumble and fumble that dad, here's a thing I've seen dads often do, but this is a mistake you will make if you do it. And that is making work a higher priority than your daughter and then your family. And I'm obviously talking about as a general rule because there's times she has to stay at school late. There's times you have to stay at work late. There's times a friendship matters tonight and you are with that friend. So you understand that I'm talking about a pattern, a rhythm, a rule. So this is about making other things like work or your hobbies or working out or those kinds of things a consistent, higher priority than your daughter because she'll interpret that as her having less value and worth to you because actions do speak louder oftentimes than words. So if you're telling her, no, you matter, you matter more than anything to me. I've heard dads say that. I mean, even in this past few months, my daughter, my wife, my family is my priority. And then I hear those same women telling me all that matters is his job or his schedule or his priorities or his friends. And then my goal is to help bring dad and daughter together so that they can have conversations. It's not who yells the loudest, who's right and who's wrong, but him hearing how is she interpreting his lack of presence, and then for her to understand some of what's on his plate as well as a dad, where he's, carrying the financial burdens, and then them hearing each other to move forward the ball. I'll use that analogy today to move their relationship forward. So dad, when you're at home, working on being present. So if you walk in the door and go to the television, go to the computer, go somewhere else, and don't even check in with her, she's going to see that as a stumble and a fumble. That is not you moving things forward relationally. So that's number 3. Number 4, stumble and fumble, is dad failing to spend one-on-one time with your daughter. And this is throughout her lifespan, even if she's married and has moved away, even if she's in college and is away, even if she's in high school and has a crazy busy schedule because she's on student council and she's an athlete and grades are a high priority and she's volunteering or has a job and a boyfriend. And you're like, I am so low down on the pecking order. It's not even funny. I can't even get a minute with her. Dad, again, think football. When you played sports, or if you are more into computers or video games or those kinds of things that take up time, ask yourself, what would have drawn me away to spend time with my dad? What could my dad have done with me that it would have actually been a draw, a motivator, something to make me want to say no to this, to say yes to time with him, and then use that with your daughter. Get creative. So those kinds of deposits and investments over time are so key. So dad, don't let that be your stumble or fumble. Okay, number 5, assuming your daughter doesn't need you when she goes through various developmental stages or phases, rather than staying steady. And I'm going to even, I love Let's Talk, titled my second book, that communicating to your daughter that you are committed to her, that you love her, even if you get pushback or rejection. But the bottom line is, don't assume she doesn't need you just because she seems to act like you don't matter. The research confirms you do. You matter. The Bible confirms you do. You matter. So at the end of the day, you want to have that mindset. How do I move the ball to the end zone so that I win this game, that I win her heart? You have to know that you matter, even if she's making you work for it in this phase of her life. Okay? Okay, next one, number 6. A stumble or fumble on your part, Dad, will be believing the lie that your past defines you or disqualifies you and determines your present and your future. Now, here's where the rubber hits the road. It's going to be without taking action to pursue healing. So if you are in a place where you're stuck, let's even say it's with pornography, and you are caught in a vicious cycle where you can't get out of that habit, that pattern, and then you know what you've seen, it's in your mind, you're replaying that video, and now you're filled with shame and you can't pursue time with your daughter because you know what you did last night, or you know what you did 2 nights ago or last week. Okay, then you're stuck in a cycle you've already disqualified yourself because of your past that you've moved into your present. Dad, get help. Get help for where you're stuck. If it's workaholism, shopaholism, things with sex, things with spending, things with video games where you can't seem to break away, Dad, don't believe the lie that you don't matter, because you do, and deal with the thing that's getting in the way of you winning the quote unquote game, winning her heart, moving things forward. That's on you. So that's a stumble and fumble. I've seen that dads believe the lie of, I'm going to let mom pick up the slack. I'm going to let mom, lead spiritually. I'm going to let her, my daughter seems to like her better anyway. And all I do is feel like I make things worse. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. So don't believe it. Number 7, stumble and fumble that dads make is not asking forgiveness and making amends when you've hurt your daughter, right? Dad, that is a lack of humility. That is an attitude of pride. If you don't have the willingness to make amends and ask forgiveness when you know you've said something offensive to hurt her heart, or you've not stepped in where she's needed you to step in. I mean, I could think of dads where maybe years later, he found out. I could think of one dad where he said, I didn't know she was sexually molested at 4 by our neighbor, or by someone in our family, or by my brother and uncle, or, my wife or ex-wife's relative. I didn't know. So now you're filled with shame that you didn't step in to protect. I have watched what has happened when a dad has sat there. Usually it's pretty emotional, saying, I beat myself up that I didn't know, that I didn't stop it. Please forgive me, which may sound a little out there because you're thinking, how can I make amends and ask forgiveness for what I didn't even know was happening? But you know what, Dad? Your daughter may still be blaming you for not protecting her. And yet you think, but how could I protect? I didn't know. Remember, a stance of non-defensiveness. If you want to move things forward, think of it in a football game. You don't stand in and say, I hate the call the ref made. Now I'm going to throw a fit. Some of them do, of course, we know that. But really, at the end of the day, you can't sit there and make a scene and the whole game stops because you don't think it's fair. You have to stand there and deal with it. Take that like a man and say, okay, help me understand. What do you wish? Remember who, what, when, where, how. What do you wish I would have done or said? What could I do now? Is there any way I could support you now in helping you confront that offender? I'm here now, and I'm so sorry. You could even talk to the 4-year-old little girl inside her. Say, could I say to her now? And it may sound goofy to go, she doesn't have a 4-year-old listening. Oh, yes, she does. Every age she's ever been is around the table. Think of that as our big round table. The age she is now is at one end. If she's okay with Jesus or God, at the other end, truth, capital T, truth at the other end of the table. Every age, say, I would love to have a seat at the table and tell that 4-year-old, my heart is broken for what I didn't do. Maybe she tells you in 7th grade, she'll never forget the way you yelled at her one time. I mean, I've seen that happen where dads will go, I don't even remember what you're talking about, but she still remembers it like it was yesterday. Imagine yourself taking a seat at the table, telling her 12-year-old, 13-year-old self, please tell me more about how I hurt you, and then make amends and ask forgiveness. Dad, it will free your daughter up to run and soar and fly and run with you down the field instead of she's way back there at the 10-yard line, the 20-yard line, immobilized, and you don't even know that you sideswiped her. You're like, I didn't tackle her, but guess what? That's how she interpreted that behavior and that response. And so you have opportunity to say, on a dad-daughter date, are you still hurting from any time where I fumbled the ball with you and I stumbled and maybe I've forgotten it? But is there anything you remember that I need to make right with you? Because I'm just opening it up today. Dad, maybe that's your action step today. Okay, last one. Last stumble or fumble that I've seen dads often make. But remember, today is positive because you can recover even if you've dropped the ball with your daughter, and that is failing to step into spiritual leadership. Because then your daughter, your son misses out on growing and learning from you. It's not going to be the same from mom or from a youth pastor or a coach. You all come together. And if your voice isn't one of the whole and a lead one of all the voices that she's hearing, she will miss out. So let her ask questions and explore her faith with you giving input. And if you don't know how to go in that direction, call me, email me, write me. You can also use my book, Let's Talk Conversation Starters for Dads and Daughters, where I have questions right there on those themes where you can lead your daughter in those ways. Okay, there you go, dads. Are you still upright? I hope you are, because my goal is to encourage you. Let me review all 8, finishing with your go step where you choose one of these 8 things. Let's turn them from stumbles and fumbles into end zone wins, game wins. But here's what you honestly want to evaluate within yourself is 1, are you stepping back and choosing to do nothing rather than stepping forward? You don't want to do that. Number 2, you don't want to justify your anger or use shame to motivate or direct your daughter. If you are, make that your goal this week. A matter of prayer, a matter of focus. Talk to someone else about it. Get accountable. Number 3, are you making work a higher priority than your daughter as a general rule, rather than intentionally investing in being present at home when you're home? Number 4, are you failing to spend one-on-one time with your daughter, wherever she's at in her life, process, in her development? Make it your goal to find time with her. Number 5, are you assuming your daughter doesn't need you right now? Because the truth is she needs you in some way, shape, or form in every stage of her development. Number 6, are you believing the lie that your past defines you and determines your present or disqualifies you? If that's what you're believing and you're stuck in cycles that aren't healthy, get help, ask for help, deal with that today. Number 7, a stumble or fumble is not asking forgiveness or making amends when you've hurt your daughter. So don't let pride or insecurity or fear rule you, but take the time to make amends and ask forgiveness. And number 8, a stumble or fumble is failing to step into spiritual leadership, because then your daughter misses out on your voice and what you have to bring to the conversation. So there you have it, Dad. 8 stumbles and fumbles. But I want to encourage you that you can recover even if you've dropped the ball with your daughter. Don't let another day go by without stopping, addressing the things. Start with 1 that you need to address in order to be the dad you want to be and that your daughter needs you to be. Well, today wraps up another week's program. It's been great to be here with you all. I love every time we get together in order for you as a dad to be willing to add more tools to your fathering tool belt and your toolbox. Well, I'm Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, the Dad Whisperer, signing off and encouraging you to make today a day where you intentionally and consistently invest in pursuing your daughter's heart. Go, dads.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield. If you're looking for more resources to support the father-daughter relationship, or if you want to connect personally with Dr. Michelle, you can find all the information you need at drmichellewatson.com. That's drmichellewatson.com. And remember, you can listen to the Dad Whisperer podcast anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. And while you're there, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave us a review. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you again on the next edition of the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield.